The black Lamborghini purred to a stop outside Luna's diner, its sleek form completely out of place among the weathered pickup trucks and modest sedans lining Main Street. Damian Cross stepped out, his Armani suit immaculate despite the 3-hour drive from the city. He checked his Rolex with practiced indifference. This small coastal town of Maplewood was nothing more than a brief inconvenience, a necessary stop to finalize the acquisition that would net him another $50 million. The bell above the diner door chimed as he entered, and conversations momentarily paused. Damian was used to the attention his presence commanded. Tall, dark-haired, with steel-gray eyes that could freeze or seduce depending on his mood. Today, they held only cold calculation. "Just seat yourself anywhere, honey," called a warm voice. From behind the counter, Damian's gaze found her instantly. The waitress couldn't have been more than 25, with auburn hair caught in a messy bun and paint-stained fingers that suggested an artistic side. Her uniform was simple, clean, but clearly second-hand. Everything about her screamed ordinary, exactly the kind of person he usually looked through rather than at. He slid into a corner booth, immediately pulling out his phone to review the contract that would close Maplewood's largest employer by month's end. The fishing cannery acquisition was straightforward business. What happened to the 800 jobs afterward wasn't his concern. "What can I get you?" The waitress, Elena, according to her name tag, stood beside his table with a genuine smile that caught him off guard. Most people approached him with either fear or calculated interest. She seemed to possess neither. "Coffee. Black. Make it quick," he said without looking up from his screen. "Please and thank you usually work better around here," she replied, her tone light but unmistakably firm. Damian's head snapped up. "Excuse me?" Elena's green eyes met his without flinching. "I said please and thank you work better. You know, basic manners, even billionaires can use them." "You know who I am?" His voice carried the edge that usually made people backtrack and apologize. Damian Cross, Cross Industries, net worth approximately $2.3 billion according to last month's Forbes list. She shrugged. "Still doesn't give you the right to be rude to people just trying to do their job." For perhaps the first time in his adult life, Damian found himself speechless. No one, not business rivals, not board members, certainly not service staff, had ever spoken to him like this. He studied her face, searching for the angle, the hidden motive. Instead, he found only honest directness and a hint of amusement. "I'll have that coffee now," he said quietly. "Please." Elena's smile transformed her entire face. "See? That wasn't so hard. And I'll throw in a slice of Mrs. Henderson's apple pie. On the house. You look like you could use some sweetness in your life." As she walked away, Damian realized he was staring. Something had just shifted in his carefully ordered world, and for the first time in years, he found himself genuinely curious about another person's story. 3 days. Damian had been in Maplewood for 3 days, and the simple acquisition had become frustratingly complicated. Environmental permits, local protests, and a stubborn town council had turned his quick business trip into an extended stay. He told himself that's why he kept returning to Luna's diner, certainly not because of a certain auburn-haired waitress who treated him like any other customer. "Back again?" Elena's voice carried amusement as she refilled his coffee cup. "Let me guess. Black coffee in the newspaper, just like yesterday and the day before." "The hotel coffee is terrible," he lied smoothly. The Grand Maplewood Hotel's coffee was perfectly adequate. He simply found himself drawn to this shabby little diner with its mismatched chairs and Elena's infectious laugh. "Uh-huh." She didn't believe him for a second. "So, what does a billionaire do when he's stuck in small-town purgatory?" "Work," Damian replied, gesturing to his laptop. "Always work." "That sounds lonely." Elena slid into the seat across from him during her break, a liberty no one in his usual circles would dare take. Don't you have hobbies, friends, a life outside of making money? The question stung because it was true. When had he last laughed with someone who wanted nothing from him? Money is life. Everything else is just distraction. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Elena's green eyes held genuine sympathy rather than pity, which somehow made it worse. What made you so afraid of living? I'm not afraid of anything. The defensive edge in his voice betrayed him. No? Then prove it. Elena stood, untying her apron. My shift ends in 10 minutes. There's a sunset at Lighthouse Point that'll change your perspective on what really matters, unless you're too scared to see it. Damien's first instinct was to refuse. He had calls to make, contracts to review. But something in her challenge sparked a response he'd forgotten he possessed: curiosity about what she might show him. 20 minutes later, they stood on the rocky outcropping overlooking the Atlantic. The sunset painted the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, reflecting off the water in a display that no amount of money could purchase. Beautiful, isn't it? Elena asked softly. Yes, Damien replied, but he was looking at her profile, the way the golden light caught the copper highlights in her hair. Very beautiful. When she turned to face him, something electric passed between them. They stood close enough that he could smell her light perfume, something floral and completely unpretentious. Her lips parted slightly, and for a moment, the sophisticated businessman disappeared entirely. Elena, he began, stepping closer. I should get home, she whispered, but she didn't move away. Early shift tomorrow. The spell broke. She stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself against the evening breeze. Good night, Damien. As she walked away, Damien realized with growing alarm that he was already counting the hours until he could see her again. For a man who prided himself on control, this was dangerous territory indeed. The Maplewood Harvest Festival transformed the sleepy town into a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and community spirit. Damien watched from his hotel window as families set up booths, children ran between the stalls, and everyone seemed to know everyone else's name. It was foreign to him. This sense of belonging, of being part of something larger than profit margins and hostile takeovers. He'd planned to work through the weekend, but Elena's text had changed everything. Come to the festival. Time you saw. What you're really buying. He found her at the charity kissing booth, a detail that sent an unexpected stab of jealousy through him. She wore a simple sundress that showed off her graceful shoulders, and her hair fell in loose waves around her face. Elena, he called, approaching with measured steps. Damien! Her face lit up with genuine pleasure. You came. Though I should warn you, Mrs. Patterson has been eyeing you all morning. She runs the pie-eating contest. I don't do contests. His automatic response felt hollow even to his own ears. Of course you don't. Elena's smile turned mischievous. Because you might lose, and Damien Cross never loses. That's not, he began, but she was already pulling him toward a booth where children were painting faces. $10 gets your face painted and helps fund the new playground equipment, announced a cheerful volunteer. I hardly think Damien started, but Elena was already settling him into a small chair designed for someone half his size. Trust me, she whispered, close enough that her breath tickled his ear. 20 minutes later, Damien Cross, Billionaire CEO, sported an expertly painted butterfly on his cheek, courtesy of 8-year-old Sophie Martinez. The little girl beamed with pride as she showed off her artwork to anyone who would look. You're really good at this, Elena said softly as they watched Sophie move on to her next victim. At what? Being human. Their eyes met, and something shifted between them, deeper, more intimate than their previous encounters. Come on, there's one more place I want to show you. She led him away from the crowds to a small gazebo strung with fairy lights. A old guitar sat abandoned on a bench, and Elena picked it up, strumming a few chords. "I didn't know you played," Damien said, settling beside her. "Among other things you don't know about me." Her fingers moved gracefully over the strings, creating a soft melody that seemed to speak directly to something buried deep in his chest. "Elena," he said quietly, "I've never felt like this before. You make me want things I never thought I needed." She set the guitar aside, turning to face him fully. "What kinds of things?" "You. Just you." His hand cupped her face gently. "I know I'm not good at this, at being vulnerable, but—" She silenced him with a kiss that was soft, tentative, and absolutely perfect. When they broke apart, her forehead rested against his. "Your room or mine?" she whispered. The butterfly on his cheek had never looked so fierce. Damien woke to Elena's soft breathing against his chest, her auburn hair spread across his shoulder like silk. Sunlight filtered through the hotel curtains, casting golden patterns on her bare skin. He'd never experienced anything like the night they'd shared, tender, passionate, and completely without pretense. His phone buzzed insistently on the nightstand. Elena stirred as he reluctantly reached for it. "Cross," he answered quietly. "Damien, where the hell are you?" His business partner, Marcus Kane's voice, cut through the peaceful morning like a knife. "The Maplewood deal should have been closed 3 days ago. The board is asking questions. There have been complications. I don't care if the entire town is protesting. You close that deal today, or I'm flying down there myself." Elena was awake now, watching him with sleepy concern. The contrast between her warmth and Marcus's cold demands felt jarring. "I'll handle it," Damien said, ending the call. "Work?" Elena asked, tracing lazy circles on his chest. "Always work." He tried to keep his tone light, but something had shifted. The real world was creeping back in, reminding him of who he was and what he was there to do. Later that morning, Elena brought him coffee at his usual booth, but her smile seemed forced. "Everything okay?" he asked. "I heard some rumors about your business deal," she said carefully. "About the cannery." Damien's blood went cold. "What kind of rumors?" "That you're planning to shut it down. That 800 people are going to lose their jobs." Her green eyes searched his face desperately. "Tell me it's not true." The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Damien had built his fortune on making hard decisions without emotional attachment, but looking at Elena's face, seeing the hope dying in her eyes, he felt something crack inside his chest. "It's just business, Elena. I can't save every failing company." "Just business?" Her voice rose, drawing attention from other diners. "These are people's lives, Damien. Families who've worked at that cannery for generations. My father worked there before he died." "Elena, no." She stepped back, tears threatening. "I actually thought, God, I'm such an idiot. You're exactly who I thought you were when you first walked in here. Cold, heartless. That's not fair." What we have, Elena laughed bitterly. "We have nothing. You've been playing games while planning to destroy everything I care about?" She pulled off her apron, throwing it on the table. "I'm done. With this conversation, with you, with believing that someone like you could actually change." She turned to leave, but Damien caught her wrist gently. "Elena, please, let me explain." "Don't touch me." The pain in her voice was worse than any anger. "You want to know the difference between us? You see dollar signs where I see people. You'll never understand what real love means because you don't know what it means to sacrifice for someone else." As she walked away, Damien realized she was wrong about one thing. He was learning exactly what sacrifice meant, and it was tearing him apart. The boardroom at Cross Industries had never felt smaller. Damien sat at the head of the polished mahogany table, surrounded by 12 board members whose collective net worth exceeded most small countries' GDP. The Maplewood deal documents lay before him, requiring only his signature to net the company, and him personally, $50 million. "Gentlemen," he began, his voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside him. "I'm withdrawing from the Maplewood acquisition." The explosion of voices was immediate. Marcus Kane's face turned purple. "Have you lost your mind? We've invested months in this deal." "The numbers don't lie, Damien," another board member argued. "This is guaranteed profit." "The numbers," Damien repeated quietly, thinking of Elena's tear-stained face, of 8-year-old Sophie Martinez and her proud smile, of a community that had welcomed him despite everything. "The numbers don't account for everything." He stood, straightening his tie with the same precision he'd used to straighten his life back toward what mattered. "Furthermore, I'm establishing a $50 million community development fund for Maplewood. We'll help modernize the cannery, create new jobs, and ensure the town thrives for generations to come." "This is about a woman, isn't it?" Marcus's voice dripped contempt. "You're destroying everything we've built for some small town." "Careful." Damien's voice carried deadly calm. "That woman taught me something none of you could, that there's more to success than what you can take from others." 2 hours later, Damien stood outside Luna's diner, his heart pounding harder than it had during any hostile takeover. Through the window, he could see Elena wiping down tables, her movements mechanical, listless. She looked up as the bell chimed, her expression closing off when she saw him. "We're closed." "I know." He pulled out a rolled document, placing it on the counter between them. "I withdrew from the cannery deal." Elena stared at the papers, legal documents establishing the Community Development Fund, signed and notarized. "This is $50 million to save jobs, modernize equipment, and ensure Maplewood's future." He stepped closer, hope and fear warring in his chest. "I choose you, Elena. I choose this town, this life, this chance at becoming someone worthy of your love." Tears spilled down her cheeks as she looked from the papers to his face. "Damien, I was dead inside before I met you," he whispered, reaching tentatively for her hands. "You brought me back to life. You made me want to be better, not just richer. I love you, Elena Rivers. I love your kindness, your strength, your ability to see good in broken people like me." She launched herself into his arms, and he caught her, spinning her around as she laughed through her tears. When he set her down, she cupped his face in her hands. "I love you too," she whispered against his lips. "My beautiful, stubborn billionaire who learned that the best things in life aren't for sale." Their kiss tasted like new beginnings, like coming home, like a love worth more than all the money in the world.